Good evening, everybody. So it truly is a pleasure to introduce our guest tonight, and it's not just because his group named me the #1 most conservative legislator in the state, but it did warm my heart. So I am pleased to announce and introduce John Tsarpalas. He's the president of the Nevada Policy Research Institute and is deeply committed to spreading limited government ideas and policy to create a better, more prosperous Nevada for all of us. John spent the first 25 years of his career as a commercial construction contractor in Chicago. As government regulations and state and local taxes expanded exponentially in his home state of Illinois, he realized that, as a business owner, he had to become more active in the world of politics. So in 1996, when Newt Gingrich drafted the Contract with America, John became active in Republican political campaigns. And after 5 campaigns where his candidates were the only Republican elected in Democrat districts, he was recruited to become the executive director of the Illinois Republican Party in 2005. As executive director, he graduated from the Republican National Committee's Campaign College and the RNC's Field Management School. After being terribly disappointed by Republican votes in the Illinois State House and Congress, John left the party to pursue alternate routes to make change. As president of the Sam Adams Alliance, the focus was on educating activists and building support organizations to help the free enterprise and limited government movements in 10 states. On the national level, he was part of the team that started the Franklin Center for Government and Public Integrity and American Majority with chapters in 23 states. After the Sam Adams Alliance, John partnered to start the following educational not-for-profits: Think Freely Media, the Chaim Solomon Center for Jewish American Thoughts, and Midwest Speaking Professionals. A former native of the economically and politically bankrupt state of Illinois. Welcome. Is it following you? John lives in Henderson, Nevada with his wife of more than 45 years. Okay. That's it. You just stopped there. You didn't even say her name. I'm like, wait, there's it. So, welcome with me, John Tsarpalas.
And my better half, Mary Beth. So thank you so much. Thank you for. It is funny. Yes, I am a refugee, but I'm here 7 years now. Love it here. It just got so bad there. So bad. And I've said from the moment I arrived, Nevada was about 10 years behind Illinois. Now we're about 6 years behind before it gets to be too late. I'm sorry. It's interesting. I became the executive director of the Illinois Republican Party, and they said, oh, it can only be up from here. It can't get any worse. Oh, it got so much worse. So we need to deal with some problems here, and the big one right now is question 3. This is a constitutional amendment to the Nevada State Constitution. I keep walking over here to push the buttons, but this will work. This is the exact ballot language. This was on the ballot in 2022. In order to pass a constitutional amendment before the people, it has to be on the ballot twice. It passed last cycle. Here, I'll show you that number. That's how it passed. So almost 4-5%. They raised $22 million, and they used it in advertising. Perhaps you saw the ads. It was a 30-something male saying, I'm a military veteran, and I can't vote in a primary. Well, that's a lie. They could vote in the primary if they wanted to declare a party. That's the type of system we have. We also, and many of you know this, you can change your affiliation the next day. So you could register as a Republican, a Democrat, and then change the ballot right after the primary, change to being a nonpartisan, whatever you would like. So there's 2 parts to what's happening here. Oh, I already talked about the money. So let's talk about and someone's from a different state, right? I saw it. Pick up this flyer, which is in the back of the room here. This talks about where it's at in other states. This woman, Catherine Gell, this is her brilliant idea. She started an organization called Fair Vote back in 2014, so it's 10 years now. And they've started working on this in smaller states. First place to pass it was Maine, then Alaska, and now they're working on us. But they're also working in other states, and they're also working in local municipalities. 20 of the $22 million they raised came from Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, liberal states, to change us here in the West. We raised 2.4, and quite frankly, I have no idea who this PAC is. I've been unable to find them. I don't know what happened to the money. So, number one, we did very little to push back on them. And number two, they're much more organized and they've been doing this for a while. And number three, they twist the truth in selling this. If people really understand, and by the way, you will be confused as I explain how ranked choice voting works. It took me weeks to figure this out. But you can go on the Secretary of State's website, look for question 3, and see the ballot language, the same language I had up there a minute ago. That one. And then there's the whole breakdown. So think about it. I'm going to explain it. Feel free if you have questions. You can reach out to me, John, at nevadapolicy.org. Happy to take your questions or whatever. But this talks about what's happening in other states. Believe me, their goal is every state. 5 states wised up, and they've made it illegal to pass this in their state. So there's 5 red states that stopped it, which is a big deal. Okay, that was who raised money. So there's 2 parts to this. It changes the primary system and it changes the general election system. Let's start with the primary. Right now, we have a closed party primary. If you have to decide if you're a Republican to get a Republican ballot, to decide if you're a Democrat to pick a Democrat ballot. Those who are nonpartisans, registered as such, can't take one of those. They have to change their registration on the current system. Another option that I think might be a viable option, because there are quite a few of these nonpartisan independents that are ticked off that they don't get to vote in a primary. And they think this is going to work for them. And so that's why they're supporting this idea. But before I explain this other option, let's talk about what are the parties. The Democrat Party, the Republican Party are private clubs, private organizations. This is a club. And they pick their elected officials. Previously, it used to always be caucuses. Sometimes it was conventions and conferences. Some of the smaller parties, libertarians, Greens, use a convention. What about the right of private association? Why should somebody vote in your primary who doesn't want to be a member of your group? That's the first thing wrong with this. It violates that whole premise, freedom of associations in our Bill of Rights. But okay, if we gotta loosen it up to make them happy, we could have an open primary, and they're doing that in New Hampshire. They have for many years. New Hampshire allows anyone who's registered to vote, no matter if they're in a party or they're nonpartisan, to choose what ballot they want on primary day. So those independents can go say, I want a Democrat ballot, I want a Republican ballot, and vote that ballot. That's an interim step that might be helpful. This is a California-style jungle primary. What does that mean? All the candidates for every office involved, and I'll get to that, are on the primary ballot together. The Republicans, the Democrats, the Independents, the Greens, the Libertarians, anybody running for an office, they're all on the same primary ballot. And then the top 5 winners of that primary advance to the general election. But they're all poured together. And by the way, no limit. I would love to start a group called Flood the Ballot, and let's have 10,000 people run for Attorney General. and just make them go crazy, because that's the stupidity of this whole thing. It's so open-ended and nice. And then there's the second part, which is ranked choice voting, which I will talk about in a few more moments. So, jungle primaries, as I said, I already ran through most of this. The other thing is, in this state, we all kind of realize that the Republican Party is disorganized, and the Democrats, because of their partners, the unions, are very organized. I guarantee you this is going to allow them more finagling, gimmickry, messing around with who's in the primaries, who's going to get to the end, and then in the final ranked choice voting. As I explain how it's counted, and your eyes go crossed, you will understand how this could be played with and manipulated. So that's important to remember. All right, at this moment, I'm going to try a technological miracle. Hold on, because
How does ranked choice voting work? Ranked choice voting, also known as RCV, is an election system where voters rank candidates on a numerical scale from their most favorite to their least favorite. But who wins? The candidate with at least 50% of the vote wins. But what if nobody gets 50% of the vote? With RCV, the computer system will calculate which candidate had the least number of votes and reassign those votes to the voter's next choice. If that second round of tallying still doesn't produce a candidate with 50% of the vote, the cycle is repeated in a third round. And if necessary, a fourth round. Didn't choose a second favorite candidate? If you didn't completely fill out your ballot and the system needs your next choice candidate, then your ballot is considered exhausted and basically thrown out. That means with each passing round, less people actually have a say in who's elected. So much for every vote counting. Vote no on ballot question 3. Your opinion matters and your vote should count before our election system becomes a confusing mess that strips you of your vote. Stand up against ranked choice voting.
So I'm going to explain this in detail. Don't worry if it sounded confusing, because it is. And we will get there. And I'm going to try to actually play this and stop and then explain what just happened. And
how does ranked choice voting work?
so bear with me.
Ranked choice voting, also known as RCV, is an election system where voters rank candidates on a numerical scale from their most favorite to their least favorite. But who wins? The candidate with at least 50% of the vote wins. But what if nobody gets 50%?
Okay, so let's stop right there. Right now our system is a plurality. Not 50%, not a true majority, but a plurality. Joe Lombardo won with 48-something% of the vote. In this case, if it was under ranked choice voting, it would go to the next round and the next round, or whatever, until somebody gets 50%, and they claim that this is going to be a true majority. That's a bending of the rule of the term majority, and I'll explain that as we go along. So, we're trying to get to 50%, we don't have it.
Percent of the vote. With RCV, the computer system will calculate which candidate had...
Okay, so this is another problem. To count this, it really has to be done by a computer. For people to manually count it, it's very confusing. So they've used this in some smaller jurisdictions in California for quite a few years. And by the way, here's the number one reason you don't want this. For 22 years, no, it's worse than that. San Francisco's municipal elections have used ranked choice voting. How's that working? So that there is a number one talking point. Marin County a few years back used this for some county level race, and people said that can't be right, that can't be right. So they did a hand recount, took them 3 months, because it's hard to figure out as we get to these second rounds, third rounds, and I'll explain that it was wrong. They counted it wrong. Because it's so confusing The algorithm was actually wrong. So, and to do this manually, it's very difficult, and I'll get into more reasons why it's difficult. But it's going to depend on the computers to do it, and the outcomes are going to throw you, because it's going to be like, why did this person never heard of me? Because that's what's happening.
The least number of votes and reassign those votes to the voter's next choice.
All right, so what just happened? Nobody had 50%, 5 candidates. They then take the candidate with the least amount of votes, the least popular candidate, and they drop that person off, but they look at the ballots that voted for that candidate, and they look at their second choice. So this person's second choice, I believe, moved here.
Yeah.
So you've just taken the ballot of the person who picked the least popular and given them a second vote. They got to vote again. And only that is looked at in that round. You're not going back to everybody's ballot. You're only looking at the candidate that was dropped off, the ballots cast for them becomes the next round. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, I'm going to wait one more time and I'll explain some more things here because it's...
If that second round of tallying still doesn't produce a candidate with 50% of the vote, the cycle is repeated in a third round.
Okay. So then they've dropped off the second candidate, orange, because they're the lowest number of votes at that point, and they're only looking at the ballots for people that voted for orange for the third round. And so then those ballots are then put on with the 1 and 2 rounds over here. So now those people who picked right in the who lost in the second round now get to vote. So they too now have 2 votes, but the rest of you only had 1 vote. And then there was a mention of something called an exhaustive ballot. You have to choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in case something drops off in order to have a fully completed ballot. What if orange, one of these oranges, there were 2 here, right? One of them didn't pick that next round. It was blank. That's an exhausted ballot. That gets put on the side. It doesn't count because there's nothing there. So let's also talk about who we're voting for here. This applies not to the president, the presidential elections, because that is in our federal constitution. You'd have to amend the federal constitution to do that vote. But our U.S. senators, our U.S. congresspersons, our statewide governor, attorney general, secretary of state, controller, and our state legislators, the assembly and the state senate, will all operate under this system. If it passes in next November, we're in 2024, I haven't gotten that much yet. November of 2024, in 2026, this will be the system we're using. So, that's huge, and I don't know how that's going to work. All right, so exhausted ballots. People have got to make a decision for all 5. I just said this isn't for president, but I think this in a Republican group will make it very obvious. If you had a primary, a jungle primary, who do you think the top 5 will be? Donald Trump, maybe DeSantis, maybe Nikki Haley, Joe Biden, maybe Bernie Sanders, and then maybe somebody we hadn't thought of, Bobby Kennedy Jr., whatever. You are supposed to go 5 rounds. You cannot repeat. If you're orange, or if you're going to vote for orange in the first round, you can't put orange down for every round. You can only put orange in once. Then you got to pick the next one. At some point, you will have to write in Joe Biden, or Bernie Sanders, or maybe Bobby Kennedy Jr. for those 3rd, 4th, or 5th rounds if you're true Republicans and you start with the Republicans first. Do you want to cast a vote for them? No. Do you want to help get them elected? So then your ballot will be exhausted. when it comes up later. So you've just gotten cheated out of your second round of voting. This just makes no sense to me. Absolutely no sense. All right, let me add some more confusion, because why not? All right, so we know this was the first one to drop off. Okay, in Clark County, probably the lowest vote getter is going to be very different than the lowest vote getter in Lyon County or Douglas County. So we can only count the first round and stop on those races that go in multiple counties until all the counties finish the first round count, put it together to find out who's the lowest vote getter in all the counties, so that we can then drop those ballots off and start looking up for the next round. So does that make any sense to anybody?
No. Maybe.
Well, George is putting a lot of money into this, so what I don't know, he's infinitely, I don't know.
Why do they want this?
Okay, well, we're gonna get to that in my PowerPoint, but why do they want this? There are good government progressives. Let's also start with who doesn't want it. Both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party do not want this. The person, this Catherine Gell that I pointed out earlier, who put up, who started all this, she muttered somewhere with an off mic, she wants to destroy parties. She thinks parties are terrible. It's a way to take away party control. How is a party going to figure this out? How are the candidates going to figure it out? Will you vote for me in second round? Because I'm doing pretty good in first round. Oh, by the way, honey, let's manipulate this a little bit, so you're my fourth round. How do you run a campaign that way? Now, there are political strategists who like this, because they're going to sell themselves as experts on the algorithm and the mathematics of this. But your basic candidate, and we have a hard enough time recruiting good candidates, is going to go, I don't know how to do this system. And it's going to be literally lunacy. What was the question I was answering? We'll get to it, it comes up here. All right, so let me play a little more of this, and we'll get out of here.
And if necessary, a fourth round.
So by the fourth round, you are in the candidates you absolutely don't like. And so it just makes no sense. So that's enough of this, but I wanted people to understand the situation. And I think it makes for, it's just an important point. Okay, so here's what the ballot looks like. And again, you've got to then, you've got to pick a different one for every round. And at some point, you're going to be picking somebody you hate. And is that who you want to win? You're going to be happy with the outcome? It just isn't going to happen. Okay, claims. One of the claims, and they use this, they went to a bunch of trade associations. For instance, the realtors support this. If you're a realtor, by the way, please do something about your trade association. They're terrible.
I tried.
They tried. They tried. And I'm sure you did, Andy. If anyone tried, it would be Andy.
Why? Why are realtors in favor?
So they went to them before this was even coming up. They were back out in 2020 knocking on doors, 2021. They're organizing a lot of money with a lot of lobbyists. And they said, are you having trouble in the legislature lately? The problem is they've become too polarized. The left is voting hard lefts in a primary, and conservatives are dominating the Republican primary. So you're getting conservatives and you're getting leftists, and there's nobody in the middle. This system will get you a mushy middle person elected. Because the two leaders of either party are going to never get the second, third, fourth round votes, and so they're going to drop off. And they're going to divide, and so it's going to be the lesser known person that wins in the middle. I don't know if you even remember Gray Davis getting elected in California because there were three candidates for governor. This was that type, it wasn't a ranked choice voting, but it was that splitting of the vote that let the middle person win. It's the same concept here. They also think that it's going to make people less hostile. They're trying to take down the animosity they claim it's going to happen. I don't see it. I think we're going to up the frustration. So, these are part of the things that they're saying. And then, what does it say about Maine? Oh, here's a problem I have with my libertarian friends, because I used to be a libertarian before I became a Republican. They think this is going to give them a chance, because right now they don't have a chance to win. They're just too small. They don't have enough organization, they don't have enough support. And they think, oh, well, we could be that third round winner, because the two Republicans will, never get there, and then people from both sides will throw a vote for us for the third round, and we'll win. Well, it's still coming out 6.6% of third-party candidates win. It hasn't changed under ranked choice voting, so that's a falsehood, or it's a falsehood. And I understand they want to win. I feel their frustration. One of the reasons I left, I got tired of losing. It's true. They also, coming from the left, this is about diversity. There's no proof that it increases diversity. Why would it? What would, what's that got to do with your color, your skin, how this system works? It's irrelevant. The system is just hard and difficult and not going to get anywhere. And then there was a 2% increase in women, but if you notice, there's been just a big uptake in women, period. Our state legislature is actually, what's the word, we're a majority of women, which is new, and it's happened in the last few years, and whether this has happened, it just happened no matter what system it was on. Yeah, the engagement thing. So anyway, at the end of this PowerPoint, if you like it, I can send it to your president or somebody, and we can send it around. I have all the footnotes where all this was found. So Nevada policy does one thing always perfectly. We find facts, and then we footnote them so you can look them up yourself. So happy to share all that. Is it going to change negative campaigning? One study said a little bit. In Maine, they claim it got worse. I don't know. So also, this is a constitutional amendment. If this passes, it will take a minimum of 6 years to get rid of it. So it passed in Alaska, it passed in Maine. Both states have big drives on to reverse this. And they're working hard to get it back on the ballot, start all over. But if it happens here, you're going to have to put up with it for 6 elections, minimum. And if you can even get it done, which is a problem. I already talked about ballot exhaustion. There's overvotes, there's undervotes. It just increases disenfranchisement by people. Any questions at this point? Because I run through a lot. Yeah, way in the back. We'll work our way forward.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you, John. I don't know, my head's going to well, what if there's only 2 candidates? Is that did I miss something along the way maybe, and how does
It's
that?
possible. It's only 2 candidates running the primary. Those would be the only ones to move forward. But why would there only be 2 when there's multiple parties in this state?
Right, you're right.
And I don't think that the Democrats won't waste time trying to win the primary, and then any Democrat will win, like win the 5 seats and not get anybody else on.
Right, thank
So
you.
I don't think that will happen, but that's a possibility.
Thank you, John.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, why are realtors supporting that? I don't.
They're frustrated. Well, why? Look who they give money to, first of all. The realtors tend to give a lot more money to Democrats than they do to the right. They give to the left. However, that's their PAC, the realtor PAC. They're frustrated because they can't get things passed by either side, but especially the left. The left dominates. They're hoping that this will break the left's hold on the legislature. These people are trying to sell it as it's going to end up with moderates winning. But there's no proof of that. It hasn't happened anywhere else. And I understand business's frustration, and it should be. I mean, when you've got leftists dominating your legislature, you got a problem. So, yes?
Because the ballot is so complicated for people to write the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the right lines and the horizontally and vertically, what is the percentage of votes that are just thrown out because people don't fill it all in?
I have a slide coming with the number. I don't remember it, but
Okay.
yes, yeah, it's coming up. It comes up, yes.
How big?
No, you're absolutely right. Yes, miss?
If it has to be voted on twice and it passed the first time, if it doesn't pass the second time, that's 1 and 1.
No, it's done. It's done.
Done.
It's over. It's gone. We can beat it. We just have to beat it this time.
Okay.
If you remember what happened with NV Energy, they wanted to, what was the word? Deregulate energy so that multiple companies could sell electricity and you could get competition in the market. And they ignored it the first time, and then they came back, second time they spent $60 million and they stopped it so that they remained a monopoly. And what I could never understand is they spent $60 million to keep their monopoly. That's $60 million they overcharged you. And why people didn't figure that out in their head, I don't know. But anyway, so it is possible to stop it. And we're getting organized, and that's what we're going to talk about towards the end of this, on how we can push back and stop this. Oh, here we go, right here, slide right here. 126,000 votes were cast, but only 117,000 were officially counted because it was screwed up. People wrote the same name twice, or they left things blank, or they just got confused. So it just doesn't work. 9,000 people didn't get counted because the system was just too complicated in that simple situation. So that's a little bit over 9%. Yeah, or under 9%. And we'll move the slide with that.
He has a question.
Yeah.
Due to this magical new method, going back to California, didn't they have 2 candidates of the same party running on the election?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's what could happen from the jungle primary.
And that could happen again
Right.
in this state.
Right.
Due to this monkey motion.
Right. So we could end up with 5 Democrats running against each other in the general election, or 2, if there's only 2 that registered and nobody from the other party registers. Yes?
Can you tell us what were the 5 states that had blocked it? So if this passes in 24, I know where I'm moving.
Tennessee.
I'm going to put my wife to work because I have a list. I believe
Tennessee.
in the back of here, these articles here. We'll find it, I'll let you know. But it was 5 red states.
Of course. Well, I'll move from red state
You all
anyway.
set?
Seriously, I want to hang around in a state that's frankly it's stupid.
It is, but it's coming everywhere. Look, we can't flee anymore. I left Illinois thinking, this is it. I'm dug in. I'm fighting, I'm going down fighting. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Fight, 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 quit running, quit thinking you can go. You can't go to it. They're working in every state. To digress from this, the left has 10,000 501c3 organizations. Nevada policy is a tax-deductible, not-for-profit, a 501c3 organization. 10,000 of them, from the ACLU to PLAN, Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. Those groups raise $10 billion a year. This is not the unions, this is not the party, it's $10 billion, it's the network that George Soros really got moving. And our side has less than 2,000 organizations and $2 billion. So where are you going to run to? They're working everywhere. Where they got strong unions, they don't have to build as many of these separate organizations. Where they don't have strong unions, just look what they're doing in Texas, in Austin. They are pouring money and organization in. They're going to grab everything, so wherever the heck you are, stand, turn, and fight. This is fine. I can help you there. So, for me, it's about confusion and chaos. There's lots of reasons why. Can you explain what I just explained to somebody about the rounds and dropping off the ballots?
Can you do it?
Yeah, the least common denominator and the biggest loser is going to be the guy you have elected.
Yep, that's true. Yes, sir.
Well, so obviously it seems that the best, maybe you'll get to this later, but the best way to attack it is on the jungle primary part of it, because it's understandable.
Well, I think that's the opposite, because I think, well, here's my problem, and you might be right. There's a lot of people that want an open primary, and they have nowhere, all those nonpartisans, that's the biggest registration group in our state, more than the Democrats. Not with the Democrats and Republicans combined, but they feel left out. Okay, it's all about feelings, that's part of the problem.
That's their choice.
That's their choice, right. We're depriving them of their right, whatever. They misconstrue so many things. Explain the ranked choice voting part, because that's the part that's so confusing and so crazy. Who's going to think that's a good way to vote?
Well, but nobody can understand it. If you can't understand it, nobody's gonna stay in a conversation long enough to hear all this stuff.
Well, just tell them, do you understand how it's done? Here, look at this video and have them go to Ballot policy.
Well,
Go to YouTube.
you're gonna get that video to everybody.
Right. They're
So
gonna have to.
it sounds like you can raise money from the two parties and, attack the thing.
Yes, we're working on, the parties won't give us any money, the parties never give anybody any money, but people who support this movement. Yes, back there.
Who is supporting this lady that initiated this? I mean,
Paul Soros money got behind her,
okay.
and I'll go back to that slide, there's some other leftists out east, progressives, they think it's a good idea. Locally, it's a woman named Sandra Cosgrove. She's a UNLV history professor. She's the local front person for this.
But isn't George Soros supporting the left?
Yes, but he's not supporting Democrats. He's supporting hard progressive quality. George Soros wants to destroy anything that's rational or, the basics of democracy. So that's why he's putting money into this. Because this has got nothing to do with democracy. This has to do with complete confusion. You got it? Okay, here's a list of states that she's fleeing to. Miss, you are fleeing to Tennessee, Florida, Idaho, Montana, and South Dakota. Those are the states that have stopped ranked choice voting.
Yep.
All right.
They've stopped.
So I said it already, it's constitutional, it's the wrong place to start. Perhaps you can talk somebody into saying, vote no on this and let's test it. Let's pass it for, unfortunately, one local town council or something and see if it works or not before we pass this everywhere in a constitutional amendment. It's just too big a jump too soon. And then the machine's going to have to count it. Can you imagine trying to do this by hand? You've got to figure out who voted in the first round. So as you're counting the vote, you're going to put all the orange in one pile, and then when orange drops off, you're going to dig through those and put. It's very difficult to do it manually. Marin County did this. Did I say this already? I gave this speech last night, yesterday. So it didn't work there. They couldn't count it. It's too confusing.
Are they getting rid of it, do you think, in Marin?
No, they're California. They love it. All right, so counting the vote, counting the winners. We've got crazy system now where it's 10 days to count the vote. Just think how long this is going to take, because you've got jurisdictions that overlap multiple counties. You've got to wait for each county before you can go to the next round's count to see who you're dropping off, and then count from there, and then see who's dropping off. In many places, it's taken as long as 3 months to count them. Again, that's just not the American way. I guess I'd like to get an opinion. Would you be happy with your second choice, or maybe your fourth choice?
No.
No. You're going to watch who you want in a fair and square fight? Okay, they win or they lose. But, I don't want to go into dinner. I don't want to pick the thing I don't really like to eat. But I'm stuck with it. It's just wrong.
And you're paying for it.
So really what they're trying to do is say that the independents really matter. But let's think about independents. They're not involved in politics like the people in this room. We're reading, we're listening, we're learning, we're trying to make up our minds on issues and policy. These are the people that don't pay attention to elections, and now we're expecting them to do research from US Senate all the way down to assembly person on 5 different people and figure out what order they want them in. Is that even logical? No. So you're gonna get your mushy moderates. And that's the goal. All right, let's start wrapping up. Jungle primaries, not a good thing. Those that understand what happens in California, you know it's a problem. It's too radical, it's a complicated system. It's gonna make Nevadans distrust elections even more when you get somebody elected that you didn't even think had a chance. That's literally what's gonna happen. And then they make promises and they aren't gonna happen. Like leftists, like liberal ideas, they're gonna pass stuff, promise you the moon, and then it isn't gonna work out. You know, how's Obamacare working out for you? How's the war on poverty doing? You know, all those things they said were gonna fix things, never do. They just just confuse things even more and make it worse. So, I'm going to ask you to find this orange sheet, and in the corner here, or the back corner, is a QR code. If you don't know how to use it, come up to me. What you're gonna do is point your camera on it. It's gonna take you to our website, and you can sign up for ranked choice voting only information. The Ballot policy's got different email chains. This one's only about ranked choice voting. And we'd love to have you be an activist for ranked choice voting. We're going to send you links to videos when we produce them. We're going to send you downloadable single-page things. We're doing a door hanger. If you're going to knock doors in the election, you could leave that behind when you talk to people. We need you to talk to people. We need you to go door to door. We're doing a loose organization on this. We're kind of doing it all digitally. So please, do that, and if not, there's a clipboard on the back table. And if you're more old-fashioned, you want to give us your name, and email address is best for you to get this digital stuff, because we're putting together a digital campaign because of cost. But if you want to be involved with us and be on our mailing list, feel free to put your phone number or put your address on your street address. And we're happy to mail stuff to you. We mail about once a month something that's going on. So if you're not an e-person, there is a way for us to stay in touch. Actually, I'm just going to hand this to you. If you want to just pass it around, somebody wants to fill that in. I appreciate that. Also on your table, or on your chair, was this booklet. So Nevada policy is very active in legislative affairs. We were active during session. We write this book, and we have some good stories of what happened in there. But right in the front, we rank all the legislators, Assembly and Senate. And Andy Black, who was, what year was that? You were our #1 rated, most conservative.
The last one.
Oh, the last one, so 2021, okay.
That one for me too.
So this is handy if you're meeting with candidates, figuring out who you're going to endorse in the primary, take a look at their votes. And also you can go to our website where it has a breakdown of all the votes. And helps you see, well, they didn't vote where I wanted you to vote, or they did. And so those candidates who did well were true conservatives, you know, write them a bigger check. And those that didn't, grill them more, and maybe think about somebody else in the primary. That's the purpose of this. We do this every cycle, and again, these stories in here are interesting and fun. And there's also an envelope in here if you'd like to send a check, tax deductible, to Nevada policy. We'd love to have you. Questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just went to your website and Dustin pointed out something. I printed everything on the very first join the team.
Yeah.
Right? It came back and Dustin, it's
Didn't
very
work.
nice. It's a sorry, just web air with forms.
Okay,
Go
right.
all the way to the bottom. There's another place to sign in. That one worked.
Okay, thank you. So go to the bottom. I'm sorry, I'll get that fixed tomorrow. I've got a meeting tomorrow. Communication guy will fix that. Also, if you're interested in all our stuff, because we do research, write great papers and policy on school choice, affordable housing. We've got a couple things coming out. We've got our election integrity piece coming out here right after the presidential primary. It's a best practices about voter ID, about changing mail-in balloting to by request only. It's our gold standard for what the election laws should be. That paper's coming out. We have a paper coming out on what the 200 boards and agencies in our state do. We've got a bunch of different things coming up this year. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, go to nevadapolicy.org and just sign up in the general email and you'll get all our general stuff. So if you have an interest in that. Yes, Ms. Miller.
Have you heard of anybody's in the state that's raising money or doing anything to fight this, or is it just like, man, we're gonna get the word out and hope for the best?
I'm afraid we're the lead at the moment. I'm trying to get trade associations and started, the Nevada Trucking Association just signed on. The state party says that will put it on all of their slate cards and things. Tried reaching out to the Democrats, I'd like to work with them. I do know culinary is opposed to ranked choice voting. They're for vote no.
Really?
Yes, because they know that's going to hurt their power. It's going to be harder for them to control elections because there's this wild card effect. So we're trying to put together a coalition. I know the Keystone PAC, the business PAC in Vegas, they're going to be running ads. They're going to be raising money. I know that because I'm on their board. So there's a beginning of some movement, but there's not any really big organizations on our side stepping up that are going to really run with this, which is a problem. So it's going to be up to activists.
You mentioned presidential primary. I thought we were having presidential caucus this year instead of primary.
First of all, ranked choice voting has nothing to do with the president. That's the national constitution. I knew I'd confuse people when I mentioned Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And President, it's not. That's a whole other issue between the primary and the caucus system. The party wanted a caucus. The vote that's going to count is what comes out of the caucus because it's turned in by the state party to the federal party. So that's how that's going to work on the presidential. It's back to that freedom of association thing. The parties messed up when they turned it over to make the taxpayer pay for their primaries. They gave up control because they gave away the money on it, the control on it. And so actually, we had primaries to somewhere around 1900s. Excuse me, we had caucuses, all caucuses till 1900. We started bringing primaries in 1900s, 1920s. And it's weakened the parties. Before that, the parties truly got to pick who wins. Well, the primaries, he who's got the most money and television time. And so we've lost control of the candidates, which is a problem. Yes?
I just think we need to focus our efforts on combating the reasons that they are promoting why you should vote for this. You know, what is the reason that people would vote for it? That they'll have more choice. That independent voters will have more of a say. We've got to hit that on the head.
We have to hit that on the head.
It's not going to happen.
Right, so they've been doing this for 10 years, testing it, and they found the secret is, I can't vote in a primary. That's the one they think is getting them wins.
And a military person saying that.
Military person, and everyone's outraged because how can you do that to a military person?
Yeah.
And so that's what they've hit on that works. They never go near explaining ranked choice voting because I think people will also think that's just crazy. But you're right. So we need to raise money to get good marketing, focus groups, testing, and come up with the real message. That's what we need. Yes, sir.
How about getting a group of veterans together and saying that ranked choice voting doesn't work?
That's a good idea. Yep. Absolutely. If we do it with digital ads, you can reach right to veterans. You wouldn't have to, it's a lower cost to let them know because they need to know. And they're probably outraged for their fellow veterans. Oh my gosh, that guy can't vote. He served or something. So you're right. Well, thank you all. It's been a pleasure. And if you have questions, I'm definitely reachable. I'm John at nevadapolicy.org. Go to our website. You can reach us through the website anytime. And if you need literature, if you know of organizations that put together a crowd that I can come in, or we have other people as well. There's Bob Zeidman also out there doing ranked choice voting pitches for people. We'd love to explain it to people. We think that at this point, we don't have a lot of money, so let's get the grassroots going. And then from there, we can grow this into a bigger organization and make something happen. So thank you very much.
Is that as clear as mud or what? So, I personally like to keep in mind that the people in this room are amongst the informed. We have to find ways to get the word out to so many people who are not informed. But you know what? We're tough, we can do it. We'll just add it to our list, right? Yes. It's going to be a busy year. I hope all of you will be working with us. Great presentation, and John, I will give you an email so we can put it on our website, and that way it's accessible to you to spread to other people too, okay? We'll get the word out.